Good evening and welcome. The Rubin Museum, with its collection of Buddhist art from the Himalayas, opens windows on inner world so we have a better chance of navigating the challenges of the outer one. And this whole year at the Rubin, in our galleries and in our programs, we've been exploring the nature of power, what that actually means. And tonight we're asking the question, can we find power in things that we can neither see, smell, touch? And I suspect by the end of this evening, there'll be a somewhat resounding, yeah, sure, from you guys. This is what we're here to experiment with. My name is Tim McHenry. I'm Director of Programs and Engagement here at the Rubin, and welcome to this second on-stage session on the power of non-conformity. The Buddha was a non-conformist, quite considerable one. He introduced an alternate way of dealing and addressing human unhappiness that was really quite radical, and still is. And equally radical is the idea of being a clairvoyant. And, well, for 25 years, Paul Selig was on the faculty of NYU, distributing Aristotelian logic to students for a quarter of a century, when he had this experience that left him convinced that he is a clairvoyant. And through this ability to channel, he's been able to forge pathways for people and remove obstacles from our path through life in a remarkable way. And no wonder that his books have been selling so powerfully and registering so strongly with the reading public. And his latest book is called Realization, and it's the first of a trilogy published by St. Martin's Press of a series called Beyond the Known. And quite frankly, Beyond the Known is really the only place to be. And that's what we're going to experience a little bit tonight, I hope. So, what this text is are pure, unedited words transmitted from the guides who speak through Paul Selig. That's what this text is. And that's what this evening will effectively be. Pure, unalloyed transmission. And you're here to experience it with us all. So let us welcome Paul Selig and his guides.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Tim, for the introduction. Thanks to the Rubin and to St. Martin's for allowing this event to happen. I'm curious how many of you are familiar with the work that comes through me? Yes? And how many of you are here because this sounded interesting and quirky and you were just wondering? So that's about half, and maybe 3/4 are sort of landing in the quirky sector. So I found that it's helpful for people to have an understanding of who I am and what I do prior to my beginning to channel. If I just sort of dive in and do it, those of you who are already horrified at the prospect of channeling will probably be even more so. But I found that with sort of a context for who I am and what I do and how this came to be, it's a bit more helpful. It's not about my wanting you to be comfortable with the work that comes through me. That's really not my job or my problem or my concern, but it makes it easier for me to be able to recede. And really, I don't plan these things. So, as Tim said, what you're going to get tonight is what comes through. And what comes through is really what's delivered in the moment. So it may be helpful to understand sort of how this came to be. So I'll tell the story first, and then I expect the guides will come through and do whatever they're going to do. And more than likely, you'll be working with them, and you should know that. So these things tend to be interactive. They get you working with the energy through these attunements that they do. And then there'll be time for questions. So how this came to be, I was raised something of an atheist in New York City. And I didn't know what a spiritual life was, or that one would want something like that. And when I was 25, I had a list of things that I had to have achieved in the world that I thought would make me okay. And I got the whole list, and I wasn't okay by any stretch of the imagination. And really, out of sheer necessity, not because I thought it would be nice to have a spiritual life, I began to look for something more. You know, I was a playwright, and I was working on an opera for the Minnesota Opera Company, and I didn't know where the drugs were in St. Paul, which was where I was billeted. I was stuck in this place called the Gopher Campus Motor Lodge, which is where they put their artists with a giant gopher on a spit outside of my window. And, you know, the Gideons leave these books in the drawer, you know. I mean, it was really one of those trippy things. And I took the book out, and it said prayer for people in crisis, and I couldn't have articulated what the crisis was. I knew that there was one of some kind. And I said it, and I think I meant it. And then 3 days later, I actually heard a voice telling me to get my act together, and now what I do is hear the voice. There was this thing happening in '87, this was the year that it was, called the harmonic convergence. And I heard people were going to be waking up, and I thought, well, if there is a God or something like a God or something, and you ask to be woken up, why would it want to say no? That didn't make any sense to me at all. So I went up to the roof of this building that I was living in Chelsea at the time, and I asked. And in retrospect, I asked from a place of possibility. I didn't know why it wouldn't happen if it could happen. And I ended up having an experience of energy moving through my body. And, you know, I say always that for all I know now, in retrospect, I was just hyperventilating up there on the roof. But it was an experience of energy moving up and out through the top of my head that left me sort of frozen and swaying on the roof. And for me, it was extremely important because it was something that was palpable. And given that I was raised with nothing, something that I could feel and experience made a profound difference for me. Somebody else telling me that this is how you do this, or this is the practice you should have, that wouldn't have taken it all. But something personal and immediate was important. And it kept me on a journey that I seem to still be on now. It was the height of the AIDS epidemic, and I found that I ended up studying a form of energy healing and volunteering at one of these pop-ups that were happening in Lower Manhattan at the time to provide services for people who weren't getting services elsewhere. And I found that when I had my hands on people's bodies, I began to hear things for them, which was the beginning of clairaudience. And I convened a little group that met in my apartment. And it met for about 18 years, you know, quietly. I wasn't looking to be known for this. I had my affiliation with NYU, and I was running a graduate program at a small hippie college in Vermont at the same time. And I wasn't trying to become visible. But the group met for 18 years, and I began channeling in the group. And it wasn't until 2008, when I quit smoking, that the guides began to lecture through me. I was a heavy smoker up until then. I used to channel and smoke out the window, and, you know, but anyway, I stopped. And that's when full lectures began to come through. And one day I was doing a group in my apartment, and the guides turned to somebody there and said, you know, Paul's not going to believe what's coming through him until he sees it written down. And I didn't want to write it down. I didn't want to record it because I didn't want a record of it. Because if they said something wrong, I didn't think I would ever do it again. You know, I wouldn't want the responsibility of that. And also, if you've heard me channel already, and you'll hear it soon, it's not the most elegant expression of channeling that's out there. I'm not one of these people that sits in a lotus position, you know, sort of talking about the Arturians or the Pleiadians, or just this thing sort of happens through me that's quite physical. And I whisper the words as they come and repeat them, and it's often happening a mile a minute, sometimes with an accent. And the guides I work with just start, and they don't let up until they stop. And then they say, stop now, please, or period, 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 which is how I know the lecture is over. But I did record the following week, and I was amazed that what came through was a lecture. It's like a 7-page lecture that required absolutely no editing. Now, I had been a writer with the worst case of writer's block of anybody I've ever known in my life, and it was a source of great shame. And I went, 5 pages, 7 pages, no editing? This is amazing. And every week I would type up the recording to see, and every week it required no editing, and it was a really beautiful teaching. And the original teachings are actually up on my website in the archives, the very first ones that I transcribed. And somewhere in this, I was hired and fired from a writing gig, and I went to bed, which is what one does when one gets fired. And a colleague of mine in academia called me up and said, Paul, maybe this would be a great time to write that memoir about how you became clairaudient. And I had no intention of ever writing anything again. And I said no, and the guides I work with piped in and said, well, we have a book to write, and if you take 2 weeks, we'll do it. And suddenly I had open time in my schedule, and I also had been sort of quashed. My ego was leveled, and I didn't care at that moment what anybody thought of me anymore. I just didn't care. And I agreed, and I made an appointment to call this woman in Berkeley, California 2 days later. And the guides delivered this book called I Am the Word. It took 2.5 weeks because I took 2 days off to go teach at NYU. And that was, otherwise would have been 2 weeks if I hadn't taken the time off. And the unedited transcript was published in a freaky way. It was never even submitted. It was published by, the first book was done, the first series, or two trilogies were done by Penguin, and now with St. Martin's. So that was the first of now 7 books that are in print. The 8th is done, it'll be out in August. And what the guides have been delivering is teaching in process, which is a progressive teaching on the embodiment of the inherent divine. And that's the best way that I can describe it. It's not a comfortable teaching. It's not the teaching of how to manifest a bigger apartment. If that were the case, there would be 500 people here probably, but it's not that teaching. It's not a very convenient teaching, but it is the teaching that comes through, and it comes through regularly. I left my academic life about 4.5 years ago, which was hard because I quite loved it. And now what I do is I show up for this work, and I show up again and again and again, and often when I'd rather not be doing it. I am respectful of skepticism. I can still be myself. I question the teaching that comes through. I'm not a spiritual teacher. I'm not a guru. I have no desire to be either of those things, but I am somewhat fascinated by this process. And I'm in so deep now that I want to know how it ends. I really do. So I continue. And, I guess I should say, for those of you who are new to my work, if you can keep an open mind and an open heart, that would be a benefit. There's nothing worse than sort of doing this to a wall. But if you allow yourself, you may actually have an experience of the energy that comes through. It's one of the reasons I do this, is the guides come through with energy. They say the books are energetic transmissions that work directly on the reader. So people are having the experiences with the books. The reviews on Amazon are, I'm reading this book and my body's vibrating. I'm reading this book and I'm seeing auras. My favorites, I'm reading this book and my husband is changing, which is I like a lot. But, all of these, there's the phenomena that seems to continue with this, and hopefully when they bring their energy through, it'll be available for you too, if you allow it. You can't do it wrong. You know what I mean? And if this isn't for you, just be patient, it'll be over. I heard 9:30 is when they want me to stop channeling and sign books, so you can last that long. So I'm going to say just a couple of things, because I'm going to go in a moment, and we'll see how the reception is. Because really you have to think of me as a radio, and when I'm channeling, I'm playing a station When I work psychically and I'm tuning into people, you are the station that I play, and that's my other work. They call me a medium for the living. I don't talk to your dead relatives, but if you're estranged from your husband, I can probably hear him and may even start to look like him when I do it. It's an interesting ability. It's a form of clairsentience that I seem to have. So I'm seriously noise sensitive. It's like, so I really am going to ask you this because I forgot to bring my earplugs tonight because I usually work with them. Please, no candy wrappers, no cell phones, no zippers. If you're writing notes, I see some people have notepads, that's fine. Just don't do it so effusively when you turn the pages. And if you see me do this, that means I can hear you. It doesn't mean I'm angry. It just means I can hear you and maybe be mindful. And usually they'll teach for 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. I don't know what they'll talk about tonight. Many of you are new, so it may be for whatever. They say they work in a one-room schoolhouse, so, everybody's going to be met at the level that they can be met at. I like to start off with a little prayer protection, and I just do this because it sets a common field that I like to work in. I use the word God. Let that mean whatever it means for you. The guides work with a language that's somewhat rooted in the Judeo-Christian tradition, but they really do say that they're unpacking that language to its inherent meaning, which is not necessarily the meaning that the construct of organized religion has been utilizing. So just allow the language to be what it is, okay? And don't try not to get tripped up. And so we'll have time for questions at the end, I expect. But for the time being, sit back if you would. Close your eyes. We can dim the lights a little bit. And I'm going to go in, and we'll see how I do. So very, very, very softly, under your breath and barely a whisper, almost as if nobody can even hear it but you. Repeat after me very softly. The light of God surrounds us. Softer, please. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the Spirit of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. So be it. Silently set the intention. That you're only open and receptive to those energies and that information which are for your highest good in the perfect amounts needed. For your healing and evolution at this time. Now, when you ask questions about your lives, you decide things based on history. You decide things based on history. Who I was yesterday will inform my choice tomorrow, will inform my choice tomorrow. And in doing so, you call yesterday into tomorrow. You call yesterday into tomorrow at the cost of the day you sit in, at the cost of the day you sit in. Each of you here by your own admission, each of you here by your own admission claims an identity, a frame and a construct, that you operate through. I'm a man who does this. I am the man who does this, who does that, the woman who does that, and the choices you make about who and what you are, about who and what you are, seek to confirm the frame, the sense of self or identity, the sense of self or identity you're operating through, that you are operating through, the small self as we describe it, the small self as we describe it, the aspect of self who indeed thinks she knows, who indeed thinks she knows who and what she is, is what is being talked about today, is what is being talked about today, and the requirements of the small self, and the requirements of the small self to manifest a life that are in agreement to, that you are all in agreement to. You live in an octave, you see. You live in an octave, you see. A set of notes or tones in vibration, you're in coherence with, that you are in coherence with. The small self you operate as, is in a low tone, in agreement to all things, of similar vibration, Any note played in any symphony, can be played in a higher octave, can be played in a higher octave, indeed into infinity, indeed into infinity, if you truly believe that. The small self, its construct, which knows itself as one note, indeed can be transposed, to be sung in a higher octave, Now, when you're in intonation, when you are in intonation, the self in form, in vibratory accord, with all she sees or experiences, you are claiming reality, you are claiming a reality, the justification of the old, what you were brought up to believe, what you believe can or can be, what you believe can or cannot be, is all in agreement, to a strata of vibration, The notes again played, within this expression octave, or octave, when you know who you truly are, beyond the construct that the small self has claimed, you're actually lifting in vibration, the claim of the high self, and the claim of the high self, or the true self, the divine self, if you prefer, who knows who she is, who knows what he is, who knows how he serves, claims a coherence in a higher octave, that then transforms reality, that then transforms the reality that you're expressing through, those of you here who know yourself through your profession, who know yourself through your profession, through your gender, your ethnicity, your age, the form your body has taken, those of you who know these things, applique the identity upon all of your encounters, and the choices you make through them, will always be to confirm the sense of self, that you believe yourself to hold, that you believe yourself to hold. If you see his hands, he makes a frame, the purpose of the frame of identity is to call to it those things, that will confirm it, that will confer it. You're always doing this. You are always doing this in this shared octave, of expression. Now, to lift beyond this octave, to a higher level of agreement, is to begin to claim a new life, is to begin to claim a new life in coherence with all things new, in coherence with all things new. And you may underline that if you wish, and you may underline that if you wish. All things new, the true self as you. The true self as you knows who she is, knows what he is, knows how she serves, and her claim in identity, exists and expresses in what we call the upper room, which is the octave above, the shared construct that you know yourself through, the shared construct that you know yourself through, in coherence in this level. In coherence at this level, you begin to call to you, that which expresses, in like vibrational accord, Now, the small self thinks she's the queen. She sits upon her throne. She sits upon her throne. She decides where there should be. She decides who others others should be based upon their appearance, what she thinks they should be to her, what she thinks they should be to her, and the history she has managed to accrue, and the history she has managed to accrue, the evidence of history, the evidence of history that she seems to apply, that she seeks to apply on those before her, When you lift beyond this, you move to a new encounter on yourself. You move not only to a new encounter with self, but for others as well, the true self as you. The true self as you, who is present here now, seeks to be realized, and to be realized means known, and to be realized means known. And in your knowing you may act, and in your knowing you may act, and claim a new world into being, through this coherence, or vibratory accord, The small self operates within a small kingdom, where she comprehends all things, through the language she's inherited, through the language she has inherited, the language invested in meaning, and the language invested in meaning is the reality you know, You understand the meaning of things. You understand the meaning of things through the collective, and you have abdicated the authority, to claim the new, or know the higher, through your adherence to separation, What separation is, if you must know, and what separation is, if you must know, is the denial of the inherent divine, that indeed must express, in all things. There is nothing outside of the divine. There is nothing outside of the divine except that which you place there, and what you put in darkness, indeed calls darkness, indeed calls you to that darkness, and you live in darkness, you bemoan your fates, but you claim this separation, again and again and again, and the more you cast others in shadow, the more you claim yourself, the more you claim yourself as separate from the one source, that indeed expresses, as all matter, Now we use the word matter intentionally. So you can understand one thing, so that you can understand one thing. Everything you see and experience is indeed of one source, in varying ways of articulation, The being you think you are, is also in articulation, The spoken self, the one who announces her frames, I am an attorney, I am an attorney. I am a dancer, I am a dancer. I am the one who loves or hates, I am the one who loves or hates. Claims you an agreement to the landscape you express through, and the way you see your landscape, and the way you see your landscape, claim things into being, decides for you what your agreement to your reality is, decides for you what your agreement to your reality is. You see you have dominion, you claim without even knowing it, and you claim it without even knowing it. If you see his hands, he is calling things to him, You're all doing this all day long, without even knowing it, and you're claiming your life, amidst the relics of history, and the meanings things have been given, that you seek to confirm, to decide for yourself, that who you think you are, again the small self, must be who she says, when you lift to the upper room. When you lift to the upper room, where we will take you tonight, we offer you potential. We offer you a potential for embodiment. Embodiment comes in stages. But we can align you to it. But we can align you to it. And by alignment means attune you. And by alignment we mean attune you to the expression. Attune you to the expression that is always present. Of course you can make nothing holy. Of course you can make nothing nothing holy, but you can deny the divinity, but you can deny the divinity in anything and everything, in anything and everything. And your realization of the inherent divine and your realization of the inherent divine is what we seek for you, is what we seek for you, humanity. Humanity, if you wish to know this, has only one challenge, and one challenge always is present, and one challenge always is present, which is the denial of the inherent divine, which is the denial of the inherent divine that expresses concurrently in all you see, it is masked from you. It is masked from you by your denial of it, and your denial of it is indeed predicated by your inherent denial, of your own divine nature, Now underline this if you wish. The true self as you. The true self as you knows who he is, knows what she is, knows what she is, and knows how she serves, and knows how she serves. To be the true self, in incarnation. In incarnation is the rearticulation of the monad, or the Christ, or the divine self, that expresses in everyone, but is usually hidden, and hidden by fear, the realization of the monad, or the resurrected self, or the resurrected self claims you in a new octave, where what you call to you, through this which we call the mudra of creation. The mudra of creation is in agreement with your inherent divinity, How a world is made new, is by lifting what one sees, to its inherent divinity, What you bless must return. What you bless blesses you in return. What you damn indeed damns you back. What you damn indeed damns you back. Now the divine nature you hold is present now, And as we attune you tonight, in fact what we are doing is supporting you in playing a broadcast, that is always present, but you have indeed denied, to deny your true self, or the inherent divinity that is as you, or the inherent divinity that is as you, is to deny the divine in all things, is to deny the divine in all things. To realize the divine in all things, is to claim the kingdom, and the kingdom you should know its true meaning, and the kingdom, if you wish to know its true meaning, is the realization of the presence of the divine, all that can be seen and known, in all that can be seen and known. Now the material realm is indeed impacted by consciousness. When you damn a human being, you claim her in low vibration. You align to that level, and you align to that level of vibrational accord, ACCORD, or ACHORD, or ACHORD, as on a piano, through the damnation you offer, to lift another. To lift another is to know who she is beyond the decree, and the only one who can do that, is indeed the one who knows who he is indeed the one who knows who he is at this level or juncture, When we attune our students, we support them each, in becoming the amplifier, for the resonant field, of all that they encounter, And as we do this with you, we indeed support you each. In lifting what you encounter, who you see before you, to its innate divinity. Again, you can make nothing holy. Again, you can make nothing holy, but you can deny the divine, but you can deny the divine that must be present in all things, in all things. Now, when we invite you to stand, Now, when we invite you to stand, we are going to encourage you to work with somebody beside you. We are going to encourage you to work with somebody beside you. You need not know them. You need not know them if you don't. It may be preferable if you don't, to see the one before you, to see the one before you as he or she truly is, as he or she truly is, without the edicts of history, without the edicts of history, the frames you would place upon another, the frames you would place upon another. Is to realize them, is to realize them, and to realize another, and to realize another, to know who they are in truth, to know who they are in truth, what they are in truth, what they are in truth, and how they serve in truth, and how they serve in truth is to claim them in a new identity, is to claim them in a new identity, the truth of one's being, the truth of one's being, the eternal self. The eternal self is indeed here to be witnessed, is indeed here to be witnessed. And if you're willing to do this, and if you are willing to do this, we will support you in it now. We will support you in it now. Would you stand as one? Would you stand as one and face the person beside you, and face the person beside you? So if you can't stand for some reason, this is just Paul, you can stay seated. And if you need 3 people to look at each other, you can do that too. But just face somebody, please. Somebody has somebody to see. And decide who is a 1 and who is a 2, please. So just do that. Okay, quiet, please. Ask questions now. We will ask questions now. The one you see before you. The one you see before you has an idea of how she should be seen, of how she should be seen, how he should be witnessed, how he should be witnessed. You idealize your partner. You idealize your partner in certain ways you don't even know. In certain ways you don't even know. She resembles my mother. She resembles my mother. He is very handsome. He is very handsome. Can I get his number? Can I get his number? You decide who another is. You decide who another is through a criteria or a bias that is indeed born in history, that is indeed born in history. To know who another is, to know who another is to move beyond the small self, is to move beyond the small self and her list of identifiers, the claims she would make, the claims she would make, that you would make upon who another should be, if he only fixed his hair, I wouldn't wear that shirt, I wouldn't wear that shirt, whatever it may be, if you allow yourself to be seen now, by whoever stands before you, and give them permission to see you, and give them permission to see you, you will have a new encounter. You will have a new encounter if you allow it. If you allow it. 1, see the 2s, please. 1, see the 2s, please. And 2s, allow yourselves to be seen. And 2s, allow yourselves to be seen. Whoever stands before you in life. Whoever stands before you has had a life. She has made mistakes. She has made mistakes. She has learned through them or not. She has learned through them or not. She has claimed a history. She has claimed a history that she or he knows herself through, that she or he knows herself through. Now in this moment, in this minute, permission, you are going to give permission to claim the one before you, outside of the edicts, or identifiers, the claim we make for all of you, we know who you are in truth, we know who you are in truth, we know what you are in truth, we know what you are in truth, we know how you serve in truth. You are free is always true at this level, is always true at this level. The true self knows she is. The true self knows who she is. The small self has an idea. She wants to be seen as she wishes. She wants to be seen as she wishes. The true self as you. The true self as you knows what he is in form, knows what he is in form. The articulation of the divine in manifestation as you, in manifestation as you, the divine or God if you wish, the divine or God if you wish, as the freckle on your brow, as your vertebrae, as your genitals, as your genitals, as your toes. God cannot be absent from anything. God cannot be absent from anything if indeed you believe in God. To deny God in in one thing is indeed to deny God in all, is indeed to deny God in all. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot have it both ways. The claim of identity, I know who I am, is a claim of truth, is a claim of truth. And what is true is always true. And what is true is always true. You will say this together if you wish. You will say this together if you wish. I know I'm in truth. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free, I am free, I am free. Now, when this is claimed, what is always true, you are claiming what is always true. Paul interrupts. You did not the word. You didn't attune them to the word. Is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? Indeed, it will now. Indeed, it will now. You may say this to your partner. You may say this to your partner. We will introduce the idea first. We will introduce you to the idea first. The claim of the word. The claim of the word. The word itself. The word itself is the energy creation. Is the energy of the Creator in action. Ones and twos together. Ones and twos together. I'm with my body. I am word through my body. Word, I am word. Vibration. I am word through my vibration. Word, I am word. I am word through my knowing of myself as word. Word, I am word. Now ones to the twos, please. I am word through my body. Word, I am word. I am word through my vibration. Word, I am word. I am word through my knowing of myself as word. Word, I am word. Now ones to the twos, please. I am word through the one I see before me. Word, I am word. Twos, if you feel the energy of this, say yes. Twos to the ones. I'm with my body. I am word through my body. Word, I am word. I am word through my vibration. Word, I am word. I am word through my knowing of myself as word. Word, I am word. Twos to the ones, please. I am word through the one I see before me. Word, I am word. Ones, if you feel the energy, say yes. Now the divine as you has come. I am word through each one present. I am word through each one present. You may say this, please. You may say this, please. I am word through each one present. Word, I am word. I am word through the room. Word, I am word. If you feel the energy in the room lift, say yes. Now each of you are saying yes, and the claim I know who I am when I'm of service, and the claim I know who I am, what I am, how I serve is a claim of new identity, is a claim of new identity. The ones to the twos, please. The ones to the twos, please. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free, I am free, I am free. Now see the one before you, please, the claim I have come. The claim I have come, which is the manifestation of the monad, which is the manifestation of the monad or the divine truth of each of you, or the divine truth of each of you is the fruition of the claims you are making, is the fruition of the claims you are making. The manifestation of the divine as who and what? The manifestation of the divine as who and what, and its expression and its expression. I know how I serve. I know how I serve will be understood by you tonight. Will be understood by you tonight. Ones to the twos, please. Ones to the twos, please. I know your truth. I know who you are in truth. I know what you are in truth. I know how you serve in truth. You are free, you are free, you are free. Twos, if you feel the energy, let them know, say yes. Twos to the ones, I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free, I am free, I am free. And to your partner, please, to the ones, yes, to the ones, yes. I know who you are in truth. I know what you are in truth. I know how you serve in truth. You are free, you are free, you are free. Ones, if you feel this, say yes, let them know. Now each of you has come to be realized, to be reknown in a higher way, to be reknown in a higher way. If you will bear with us, if you will bear with us, we will lift you now. We will lift you now, indeed as one, indeed as one. What we call the upper room. What we call the upper room is an escalation of vibration, is an escalation of vibration, what we call Christ mind, to what we call Christ mind, or the realization of unity, or the realization of unity. Close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes for a moment, and we will do this with you, and we will do this with you on the count of three. On the count of three, we intend to lift the room as one. We intend to lift the room as one. The claim we make for you, and the claim we make for each of you, indeed you are in the upper room. Indeed, you are in the upper room is an escalation of tone, is an escalation of tone, up the scale to the next octave, up the scale to the next octave, may be known by you, that may be known by you. As we say this, we support you each in your own awareness of it. We support you each in your awareness of it. Paul, step out. Paul, step out. We wish to use him more fully than he's allowing now. We wish to use him more fully than he is allowing now. He wants a script and there is none. He wants a script and there is none. This is the claim we make for this class. This is the claim we make for this class. Each one present tonight has the right to be reknown, has the right to be reknown, claimed anew in higher order, in a higher order. And as they say yes to this, and as they say yes to this, as they give permission to it, as they give permission to it, they will indeed be attended to by us. They will indeed be attended to by us. On the count of three, we'll lift the class. On the count of three, we will lift the class. 1, 2, 3. Be lifted as one. Be lifted as one. You may say this. And you may say this. I'm in the upper room. I am in the upper room. We will say this for you. You are in the upper room. You are in the upper room. If you feel the lifting, say yes. Say yes. And allow yourself to be known. We know your truth. We know who you are in truth. We know your truth. We know what you are in truth. We know how you serve in truth. You have come. 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 The true self is each of you. The true self as each of you is available to you as Clement, is available to you as you claim it. The ones and twos together, you may say this. The ones and twos together, you may say this. I'm in the upper room. I am in the upper room. Twos to the ones. I lift the upper room. I lift you to the upper room. Ones to the twos. I lift you to the upper room. Say this. Now you may say this together. Together. I come. I have come. I have come. I have come. Ones to the twos. I have come. I have come. I have come. And to the one before you, you have come. You have come. You have come. Twos, if you feel the energy, say yes. Twos to the ones, I have come, I have come, I have come. And to your partner, you have come, you have come, you have come. Feel this, ones, yes. Now on this night we claim that each one present may be claimed anew, that each one present may be claimed anew, and you must say yes if you wish it, and you must say yes if you wish. We will not override your free will, but if you wish this, and if you seek this alignment, and if you seek this alignment, the integration of the claims made tonight, indeed you will be supported in them, indeed you will be supported in them. And we say this for each of you, and we say this for each of you. We know who you are in truth. We know who you are in truth, beyond the small self's agenda, and the edicts of history, We know what you are in truth. We know what you are in truth, beyond how you've claimed the body or the forms of all things, beyond how you've claimed the body or the form of all things, and your service, indeed your full expression, is here to be sung as you, We thank you for your presence. We thank you for your presence. You may thank the one before you as well. Period. So thank your partner, and then you can have a seat when you're ready. All right. So, yes, please. Just because I'm curious, how many of you were able to feel the energy as you were working with your partner? Just raise your hand. That's pretty great. Look around. Do it again. If you felt it, raise your hands. That's pretty amazing. How many of you have never done this before? That's even better. So I'm going to say this is me, because it's helpful to understand this. You know, the guides say we're all radios, right? We're always in broadcast, and the consciousness we hold is the broadcast we're claiming. It's really that simple. So the claim, I'm a piece of shit, claims me in relation to all the shit that's out there. Do you understand that? Because like attracts like. The guides say this is the frame we're always claiming, and we're always calling things into being, into manifestation. They call this the mudra of creation, and maybe if there's time, I'll teach it to you. So, what was I going to say before I interrupted myself? What? Oh yeah, you're all radios. So what the attunements are, and it's important to understand this, is the guides are actually attuning the radio that you are to play the higher stations that they say are always there. You know, they didn't just occur, they've always been present, but we haven't known how to play them. So imagine like there's a jukebox and there are coordinates to things. And the claims of truth, and they say again and again, what is true is always true. If you punch in the coordinates, you're always going to get the same song. Do you understand this? So just do this for yourself, just for the hell of it, and so you can see, you don't need me to do this. This is the good news. Close your eyes for a second, and just see if you can feel this as you say it. I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free, I am free, I am free. Good. If you feel the energy just by saying this yourself, say yes. Okay, I'm going to show you something else. They attune you to the word, and the word they call the energy of the Creator in action. That's what it is. So I'm going to show you this. Just close your eyes and see what you feel. And say this if you would. I am word through my right hand. Word, I am word. You feel the energy go to the right hand, just say yes. I am word through my feet. Word, I am word. Feel the energy go to the feet, say yes. I am word through each one present. Word, I am word. Good, you feel that? I am word through the room. Word, I am word. There goes the room. Okay? So you can do this. So those are some of the attunements. They actually barreled you through attunements that I didn't think they would do tonight, which is inclusive of the one that is the focus of the book Realization, which is the claim I have come, which they call a claim of embodiment. And that's a whole other teaching. Since you all got the book, I think when you signed up, that'll be explained to you. So I'm going to open it up. We've got a half an hour for questions. So are there questions from people on the teaching? That's probably what we should stay with because they spoke to you. There's somebody in the center here, please. If somebody would pass the mic to the middle. And just say, I need the mic. Say your name first, please.
My name is...
Hi.
Who are the guys?
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, well, I'll give you the story. The reason they're called the guides is because my ex, Larry, years ago, when he found out I could do this, he used to say, ask the guides this, ask the guides that. That's why they're called the guides. That's the only reason. The name they've given is Melchizedek, and it's an old name, and it's a priesthood. For the first name I ever was told was the priest. That was who I would, then they said, well, they clarified, they said, well, I'm the high priest. And then that's the Melchizedek. So that's what I understand. They've described themselves differently. My favorite, they're teachers. They come as teachers, but my favorite definition is they say, we are who you become when you know who you are. Other times they've called themselves the divine self. But the divine self, the definition of that in the teachings is the true self, which they call the Christ. And their definition of Christ is not a religious definition. They call the Christ the aspect of the Creator that can be realized in material form. It's the seed of the divine that seeks its expression as in through everyone. Okay, so that's the answer. Are there other questions, please? In the back there, please, in the back row. Just wait for the mic, because I'm old and half deaf. Thank you.
My question is when it comes to my responsibility for others and making sure that I do what's best for my kids, and you have dealing with their ex and he's doing things that I feel like is what's best for them. And I try to rise above it. And when I do, I question whether or not I should be doing what's best for the kids or rising above whatever their father's doing. So when do you, I guess my question is, how do you know if you are doing the responsible thing by
There's two ways to work on this, and one is with the guides, because it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all question, and the other is more psychic, which I can try to do here, although it's not in the teaching. So here's this simple sort of litmus test for action. The guides say again and again and again that the action of fear is to claim more fear. And they say, look at any action you've taken in your life because you were afraid and see what it got you. And more than likely, you're going to find out that you got more of the same. So not acting in fear seems to be imperative here. Now, are you comfortable saying your whole name? Let me just tune into you first and see if I can even do this. Well, this is you. And this isn't to make fun of you, but this doesn't mean screw you. It means back off. Back off. And this is protection. And there's wariness here. Are you comfortable saying your ex's name? Let me see if I can get him. The energy here basically is, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? He's looking straight at you. He's not stepping away. He's straight at you. So I'm going to ask what you need to do at a higher level here. You actually, what I hear from you is I need to let him be who he is, and I'm frightened of doing that. That's the challenge I have, and that's the challenge I have. Because if you let him be who he is, what's he capable of? Do you understand that? And that's where you go. So let me go to the highest thing that you can do, and I'm going to do this through you at a higher level. Well, this is sort of one of the one-size-fits-all answers from the guides, but I just got it for you. You've got to forgive this guy for not being who you want or wanted him to be. Do you understand that? That's the first step. Then he gets to choose the claim the inherent divinity in him, and then they're saying claim the inherent divinity in him. So this is, and I'll say this for everybody because it may be helpful. When you're claiming, I know who you are in truth, I know what you are in truth, I know how you serve in truth, you're claiming what is always true. Do you get that? So what you're not doing is what the guides say, what you damns you back. Do you understand that? The guides say you can't lift the evil man to the upper room. You can't do it. You can't lift him because you've made him evil. And by making him evil, you've aligned to him at that level of vibration or consciousness. So to know who he is doesn't mean you're not aware of his past behavior, but it also means that you're identifying who he is beyond the history that you've held. Does it make any sense? I'll leave it there. You're welcome. Are there other questions? Just pass it to the middle there. Just pass it up to the guy. Hi. You stand so I can see you?
Can you just give me the description of the difference of channeling and mediumship?
Sure. Most people think of mediumship as, they think of spiritual mediumship. And spiritual mediumship is people who are able to talk to the dead. Channeling is a form of mediumship because I'm in the middle. Medium is the person in the middle between two levels of consciousness or vibration. So what I was doing when I just tuned into her was a form of mediumship. And my understanding of mediumship, frankly, is that it's becoming the object of inquiry. Do you understand this? You become the one that you're experiencing. It's not just like when I first started, like having a tin can up to your head and hoping somebody picks up the other side. So spiritual mediumship is thought of as the dead. Channeling actually is teaching. And it's a different thing. It's sort of an unfettered, I actually don't hear people's dead relatives. So if you ask me to tune into your aunt and she's crossed, I'll probably get her just as she was when she was here. And I would only do that usefully if there was a dynamic that needed to be healed in that relationship. Then that's very valuable work to do. But I'm not the guy who says, there's a picture of me on the refrigerator with a strawberry magnet. That's not what this is about. So the guides are coming through with a bit of a higher agenda, which is really our own healing and transformation. Okay?
So would you say that's your higher source?
Some people say that they're channeling their higher selves. And I suspect that that's one of the ways it can be understood. The difference with my guides is they actually use words that I don't know on occasion. So they're stepping there. In the newest book, the one that's out next year, I was channeling at the Esalen Institute, and they kept saying a word that I didn't want to repeat because I didn't know the word. And the rule with the books is you can't change anything. So I didn't want this unfortunate word to wind up in a book. And so I didn't say it. And it's in the book. The guides say we're speaking a word and Paul's refusing to say it. And the word was penumbra, which is a wonderful word, but I didn't know it. People got on their phones after. I said, it was penumbra. Looked up, and what it meant was perfect for the teaching, which was all about shadow and light, which was the teaching. So, but they do use a word that wasn't a word 2 or 3 times in the new book, which is the word counterance, which sounds like it should be a word but is not. Do you understand? So this is sort of a dilemma. And when I work psychically, I'm tuning into the field of the person I'm with or accessing information for them. And that information requires interpretation. Do you understand this? So I can say I'm seeing a toaster, but I don't know what it means. When I'm channeling, the guides are explaining what the toaster means. That's the difference. And truthfully, that kind of psychic reading is more creative because there's interpretation involved. And channeling is stenography. It's all it is. I think if somebody is really channeling, they're delivering what is coming through them. They're not making it pretty. It's not affirming their politics. All of these things. They're not vilifying whoever is being vilified at the moment. I mean, that can be a low-level energy that somebody's tuned into. But one of the easiest ways to know if you're operating with a low source is you're sharing fear, because that's that level. The guides I work with don't tell anybody what to do. People want it all the time, and they don't, and I won't. They don't tell me what to do either. They might let me walk into traffic if I wanted to. But if I ask, is this a good time to cross the street, they'll say, not wise, because then it's still my choice. Okay? I'll leave it at that. Let's pass it to the gentleman there, then we'll come up to the front. Hi.
You brought up something interesting there where a guide's not going to tell you what to do. Sounds pragmatic part of life with, I guess, trying to fix a broken car, or you're trying to level a countertop and there's a process you need to go through. Somebody says, don't think about it, let it.
Well, I mean, the idea of letting it flow is highly productive, and what it may do is get the small self out of the way. And the small self knows itself through history. Understand? That's all it knows. That's all the information it has. So it's not going to be the aspect of self that's going to get a new idea or be inspired. It's just not, I don't think it's possible at that level. Now, what the guides I work with teach is knowing. And they say realization and knowing are the same thing. To realize something is to know it. The claim I know who I am is the claim of realization. Understand? So how do you go to the flow? Say, do this. I'm going to show you all this now because it might be helpful. All right, it's a little demonstration. Because just do this for a second, if you would. Just everybody, the guides call this the mudra of creation, and they say we're always calling things into being, always. And this is it. Imagine you're in the ocean. Everything exists in this ocean, and this is how you're calling the tide to you. Do you understand this? So I'm going to show you, I have the right to be here. Just try this one. I have the right to be here. Everybody say this. I have the right to be here. And feel how you feel your hands. And now let's try this. Nobody else has the right to be here but me. Nobody else has the right to be here but me. Who feels their arms getting heavy? Yes. It's a low claim. Do you understand this? It's a low vibrational claim. Let's try this. Everybody has the right to be. Feel the difference? You go up. It's a high claim. So the goal seems to be operating from this level of knowing where you're claiming in the high way. And this is another level of manifestation because you're always manifesting. Understand that? And that's the flow. That's the flow you want to align to. Okay? All right. Yes, let's go to the young lady here, please, in the blue, and then we're going to come to this side. There. Okay? You're not yet. One and then two. Hi.
I was wondering, how would we know if we have any of these capabilities or gifts? And if we did, how would we sort of tap into them and, so as to serve?
Sure. There's nothing that I do that I knew that I could do until I did it. Okay. The only thing I ever studied was a form of energy healing, and that was when I was about 30, 31. And my opening came as a result of that. It kick-started my whole system. I started seeing lights. After that thing on the roof, I started seeing lights around people. That was the opening to clairvoyance. And I didn't know what I was seeing, and it spooked me a little bit. And I didn't know whether I had a detached retina. My friends were saying I might have had a brain tumor. I didn't know what the hell it was. But I kept seeing them, and that's why somebody sent me to go study healing. They sent me first to work with a healer to get a context. And then after 2 years, I got the courage to study myself. And I was convinced that I was the only person in that class that didn't have the right to be there. I was absolutely convinced, And had I left that class, which I almost did halfway through, I wouldn't be here tonight. It's a given, because it carried over the years. So I think that people have to ask, truthfully. You have to ask, and then you have to be willing to receive, and you also have to kind of know that you're worthy of the reception. The guides I work with say we're always claiming off of the menu of what we believe we're allowed. That's it. So you don't go to the steakhouse, and order the vegetarian special because it's not on the menu. Do you understand that? And, you only can claim what you believe you're allowed to have at that level as well. So you don't go to the steakhouse with $2 in your pocket and expect to get something. So the claim of worth, which is the claim in many ways that you made, I know who I am in truth, what I am in truth, how I serve in truth, can support you in this. And you also ask for the right teacher because they show up. They really do. I've always been gifted with somebody at different stages of my growth that I could trust. And I believe it works that way. And then you'll be led, If it's there, you can open to it, okay? You're welcome. Let's go over here now, please. Your name, please? I can't hear you.
My name is Disclaimer.
Mm-hmm.
my abilities and
All right. I'm not going to do this the way you might want, because I don't show up in people's dreams, but people tend to mistake the guides I work with for me because I'm a way of knowing that. You know what I mean? I'm just Paul, all right? Now, I don't tell people what they're here for. I don't validate other people's voices. I'm cautious around these things for several reasons. You know, when I first went back into therapy when I was in my mid-30s, and I had to tell this guy, Frank, I said, you know, Frank, I should tell you I hear things. And he said to me after the third or fourth session, he said, Paul, I'm going to be honest with you. I have to make an assessment of everybody who comes to me. I'm legally bound to do this, and you're not crazy. And then he started coming to me with his blocked clients. We stopped working together, but I was able to access the stuff that was stuck for other people, you know, and he found that interesting. Now, that was me, but not everybody who's hearing stuff is actually tuned in at a high level, and that's the caution. Now, give me your name, your whole name. I can't hear you. I'm just going to see if I can tune in. You see, I'm not going to say what it is for you. What I hear when I tune into you is it's got to be what I want. And that's a claim of either power or perhaps the small self. You know, I'm cautious around channeling. When everybody says they want to be channeling, I always say, why the hell would you want to do this? Truthfully, because first of all, you're not getting information for yourself. I go to people. I mean, I can get some stuff from me in the moment, and a lot of it's about not making choices based in fear. So trust what you get. I hear trust what you get, work with protection, work with protection, learn to discern the small self or egoic structure that seeks to be special, from the divine self who is as you now, and available to you at that level, and available to you at that level. Say this important. You're telling me to say this and that it's important. So that was them. What I think is far more valuable than channeling, and I say this, is being able to hear your own true self, because then you're not going outside. And I think that's what the guides are really teaching. And what they teach through me is specific and on message. Do you know what I mean? Like in 7 books now, it's all the same thing, but it's bringing us to that place. So I wish you well. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the woman right there, please. Just, you can pay, yes, we'll take it to the 5th row, 4th row. Hi.
Thank you for being here. I'm Katie.
Hi.
What do you do to take care of yourself, and what brings you joy?
Wow, am I that obvious that I don't do anything to take care of myself?
I can just see that it's physically, it costs you
Yeah.
a lot physically and mentally, and thank you for sharing it with us, but I can see that that's something that you have to pay attention to.
You know, I'm better with it in some ways than I was. Most people who channel for an hour, and that's it for the day. And I, for whatever reasons, can work for 5 hours in a day. And so when I'm doing a book, and the last 3 books, I think, were all done in front of audiences just like this. And they'll do 70 pages of a text over 5 days of a workshop, you know, and it's public, you know.
Can you ask them for a bigger break?
They can't really work without me, you know, but they do seem insistent. And I don't know how long. There's one more book left in this trilogy for St. Martin's that hasn't been dictated yet. I don't know what happens after that. Every time they finished a book, I thought there was nothing else for them to say. And they continue. So I have a very good support team of people that work with me, that do care about me, and I'm fortunate for that. And, I don't stay in the Motel 6 anymore when I travel. You know, I've upgraded. But there's not that much. My central nervous system seems to be what takes the brunt of it, and I put on all the padding as a result of, of protecting. But people talk about being an empath, like everybody's an empath these days, and we all have capacity, but clairsentience is a specific skill set. And it's not, there are enormous gifts that come with it, which is the ability to feel what other people are feeling, or the ability to know what it's like to be them. I'm the only guy that I know that's had a hot flash. And I had it tuning into, I didn't know what it was, but the client, I said, my God, I'm turning to burn from the inside out. She said, that's me, And all of those interesting experiences, but it comes with a level of vulnerability, which isn't always pleasurable. When somebody's talking crap about me, you ever hear, your ears must have been ringing that thing? It's true, So if it's a guy, it's my right ear, and sometimes it's like a hot poker. Female is usually left, and I don't like it. And I complained to my guides about it, and they said, well, as long as you care what people think about you, this is going to be an issue. So it's back to it being my opportunity for growth. So that's it. I'm learning.
Anything that brings you joy, that it just distracts you and brings you joy?
A good docuseries on Netflix will go a long way. That's about my dog Lily. That's about it these days. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? Let's go to the gentleman there, please.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. Hi.
This is a question to the latest book. I remember I took page 109, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in regards to the soul, the journey of the soul, and I don't have the language. I can't call it up exactly. But is there something more you can say about it? Is something about the divine self kind of usurping the path of the soul?
I don't know. It's one of the teachings I'm not comfortable with. And my friends who are Hindus say, oh, this makes perfect sense to them. And my Tibetan friends, actually, too. I guess it's sort of the same teaching. But what the guides say is the soul progresses. And the soul comes with things to learn and progresses through lifetimes and learns through them. But that there's an aspect of self, which is the divine self, or the divine spark. There are names for it in pretty much every religious discipline or tradition, as far as I can tell. Shekinah, indwelling Christ, there's all these different names. That aspect of self is seeking realization as in through us. And they say that's the whole idea of becoming full of light. It is that teaching. Mitch Horowitz, who was my first publisher at along with Joel Fatinos when they were at Penguin, Mitch said this is a Gnostic teaching, or somebody else. That's what people say Gnostic. I didn't know the Gnostics very well. But essentially the basis of Christianity, which later became a structure, that's what I was hearing this was from people and scholars who were looking at the work. But the idea that the divine self in a state of resurrection, and that's the claim they actually had you make tonight, the claim, I have come, I have come, I have come. And it's quite a potent claim when they begin working with it. When it first started coming up in workshops, I thought I had misheard it, because in a prior book they made this claim, I am here. I'm here, I'm here, which was the awakening of the divine self. And I thought, well, I have come, what the hell does that mean? And what I have come is, this is what the guides say. And they talk about music, they don't talk about science. They say, I know who I am in truth, I know what I am in truth, I know how I serve in truth, I am free, I am free, I am free, are all as notes played on a piano. Each one is a note, and if you work with them singularly, they all have their own torque, or their own feeling to them. When all of those notes are played at the same time in a realized state, that's the claim, I have come, I have come, I have come. The guide said once, Dustin, who works with me, said to me once, we always have to say this stuff? How long do we have to say these claims? And the guide said, until you know them, until you know that that's who you are. So I don't walk into a room saying, hi, I'm Paul and I'm in a male body. I accept that about myself, at least at this stage of my life, I do. So, but I don't necessarily claim or realize my inherent divinity. So they say, and the guides have been saying since I started, accord, A-C-C-O-R-D or A-C-H-O-R-D is on a piano, and I didn't understand it, and that's what it means. This is the chord. It's the music of being at that level. That's when the soul itself, I suspect, realigns. I suspect what you may be referring to is one of the things that I don't quite understand, which is you're sort of lifting beyond karma at a certain point because you're not operating from fear where you're not incurring it anymore. That doesn't mean you're not accountable to past acts, but that's one of the, because the guides say all karma is an opportunity to learn. It's not punishment, it's learning. That's it. You know, and there's another way of operating from one's knowing. So I'll leave it at that, okay? So we have to go to here next in the front. Hi.
Hi, thank you for being here. Kind of have a two-part question. The first one is, at any point in your life, that frequency,
I'm learning. You know, that's what the books are teaching. You know, the newest book, the book that just came out, is where they sort of establish what they call the upper room. And that's, they say, a level of vibration, and they tell you how to get there. And the book that they delivered since then is really all about navigating the transit between the octaves, which is brutal. And it was the hardest book I've ever had to live through. And it was the first book I actually had to live through because they were teaching me things or talking about things that I was going through at a level of personality that I would have preferred not to be going through. But the guides say, you know, we're all operating with a mask. And the mask is persona or identity or whatever those things are. The idea of releasing the mask, which is what that book really is speaking to, exposes the things that the mask has been hiding, which are quite uncomfortable. It's like picking up a rock and looking at the creepy crawlies that have been there. But the guides say nothing is healed unless it's seen or exposed to the light. That's the whole teaching of truth. They say, I know who I am in truth. They're saying, you know, in truth, a lie will not be held, is one of their claims. At that level of vibration, you can't hold it. So that's the opportunity there. It's almost, you know, the guide said in that book, which is the Book of Truth, which was, I think, the 5th book that they delivered, they said that that's what's happening now here. They delivered this about 3-4 years ago. That's what we're undergoing. And they say, but what it's like is, they said, imagine there's an archaeological dig happening in your backyard, you know, and things you buried 2 weeks ago and things that were buried 5,000 years ago are all coming up to be seen. And it looks like a mess, as it should. But all of these things are opportunities because what we're seeing is opportunity for things to be reclaimed in a higher way. Okay? I don't know if that answered your question. That was the first part. Okay, the second part?
I was just wondering if maybe you could possibly
I'll tell you.
always felt I've had a very
I'll tune in. I don't know if I can help. Can I have your whole name?
Diablo Vasquez.
Diaglo?
Diablo
Let me see if I can get you. Well, you're kind of floaty, I'll be honest with you. You come like, oh, yeah, I'm really up here. But you see, with this, I hear for you, truthfully, I'm not listening, is the only problem. That's no problem. And that's not a problem, so allow yourself to. I hear you have to allow yourself to. You can't make yourself hear. Now, clairaudience is a form of psychic ability. But claircognizance, which is knowing, which is what I recommend, you know, that's the high one, because that doesn't require you to get out of the self to do it. He doesn't want to listen. I hear his intuitive self is present, he doesn't want to listen. And part of the reason may be that, you know, when we start getting information at that level, we have to be responsible to what we hear. And that's awful. for some of us. I woke up one morning knowing it was time for me to quit NYU after 25 years. And I didn't want to do it. I mean, I'm in my 50s. This was insurance, this was retirement, this was the 25-year investment. And I didn't want to do it. But I knew it was time. And what I spent the next 5 months or so doing was calling every psychic on the Eastern Seaboard, my accountant, my attorney. What do I do? What do I do? And finally, I just did it. You know what I mean? And then I was okay again. I also hear that you have to open up to the potential that you can hear in other ways. It may not be what it was. Do you understand this? And that's one of the traps we get into. You know, we have a big experience, which happened to me when I was in my late 20s. I had a big experience, and then I wanted to replicate it. And then I figured I did something wrong because it wasn't coming back. But what it was in some ways was a marker for me. You understand this? I don't think I could have managed it to maintain that. It's one of the concerns I have sometimes with people that are doing a lot of psychedelics to have the big experience, because it's all got to be integrated finally. Do you understand that? For it to be of true benefit. Other than that, it's just a large experience. So I had a large experience, and then I had to integrate it, and the next large experience didn't come in the same way. It had other qualities to it, something else for me to learn. Okay? Thank you. We've just got a couple of minutes, and I want to go back to the guides to see what they want to send you home with, if that's okay, because I was told to try to stop this part at 8:30 so that I could do the book. So let me go back in. We would like to say several things. They're saying we would like to say several things about what you did tonight, and what it means to be who and what you are, and what it means to be who and what you are, the true self that you are. The true self that you are, the eternal self if you wish. The eternal self, if you wish, is as present now as it can ever be, as it can ever be. But you must align to it. But you must align to it. Claim from it. Claim from it. Know who you are. Know who you are, and acquiesce to it. And acquiesce to it. You want to be the king. You want to be the king, ruling the small kingdom, ruling the small kingdom. And as we have said, freedom indeed comes. Freedom indeed comes when the throne relinquishes its king. The divine as who and what you are. The divine as who and what you are is here to be known, is here to be known. Would you all stand, please? Would you all stand, please, and look around the room, and look around the room. See each one and let yourselves be seen. See each one and let yourselves be seen. Whoever stands before you, whatever he has done, whatever he has done, whatever she thinks she is, whatever she thinks she is, she has a right to be, she has a right to be. And the claim, I know who you are, and the claim, I know who you are, in truth is equally true when you claim the divine in another. When you claim the divine in another, you align them to the higher truth. You align them to the higher truth. I say to your fellows, we will invite you to say this to your fellows. I know you are in truth. I know who you are in truth. I know who you are in truth. I know what you are in truth. I know what you are in truth. I know how you serve in truth. I know how you serve in truth. You are free, you are free, you are free. You are free, you are free, you are free. Now we say thank you for your presence, and as we say good night, we offer you this. We offer you this. This was the first step for some of you. This was the first step for some of you in a longer journey, whichever one you take. Know that you have the right to claim it. Know that you have the right to claim it. You get to choose. You get to choose. You are free. You are free and aligned to the true self, and aligned to the true self who will teach you as you walk. Blessings and good night. They're saying blessings and good night. Okay? So I'm going to say thank you all. And I think Tim's going to come back, so I will. Should I stay here or go off there? Okay. Thanks, everybody.
So we learned a little bit about the history of the small self, and this building also had a small self history in the fact that who would have thought that the hairdressing salon of the original Barney's department store would become an upper room. So that's great. So thank you for allowing that to happen.
That's great.
So this series has been about the power of non-conformity. In other words, stepping outside of the habitual patterns that are set for you by your own projections. And so allowing yourself to see others differently and yourself differently is kind of what this series is about. So this is one perspective you've received tonight. If you want to hear a comparable perspective from the Siberian Tuvan tradition, come back on November the 20th when the white shamaness Chokbar will be here, with a drumming session relating also to a film about another shaman tradition. So that's an invitation. But tonight, right now, before you head out into the world, we invite you to the upper room of the shop. Yes. Acquisition of material possessions. This is the first step in a journey for many of you. So please have your book signed by Paul. He'd be very happy to do so. But, you know, we don't get this sort of gift without also feeling the importance of giving something in return, right? That's our job as humans, to have that exchange. And Paul, you actually very beautifully summoned what karma means, and you also referenced the Hindu tradition. And so I think, given this Museum of Himalayan Art, Paul should leave with a little token of art. And it comes in the form of a sculpture carved out of obsidian, depicting the rather happily rotund Ganesh, the god, who is the remover of obstacles. And that's what you do for people. And so this is your portable Ganesh. Thank you. Now let's all be portable and go out and not only visit with Paul upstairs, but when you see people on the street, see them as who they really are. They are you. They are you. Good night.